Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So it's nice to see that many more people came. So in ancient times, when devotees would encounter one another, instead of asking, "How are you doing?" they would ask, "How far along are you on your journey of self-realization?" So I'd like to ask all of you, how are you guys doing in that regard? You guys are all here, so that's a good sign. For those of you who may or may not know me, I'll just speak briefly about myself, because this is actually the first time I'm giving a class or a talk or anything like that since I've been here, and not as a monk. So I think half of this room, half of the people here actually know me as a monk, had known me when I was a monk, which was about 6 months ago. And then I graduated in February. And so now I'm a civilian once again. So I thought perhaps I can share what I've learned, or perhaps whatever little realizations I've gained from my newfound perspective as a regular person, I guess. And so I would love to just leave it open. If anybody has any comments or questions, anything they'd like to chime in, please do. So, oh, you have something already? Okay. Okay, that's a good question. So, how do we graduate from the monastery? So, there's several options a person in the renounced order as a brahmachari can take. In traditional times, in Vedic times, the children would actually be trained from their very youth to be monks up until the age of 25, and then they would be given the choice to either continue or they can actually become a civilian and live a spiritual life in the relevant world. And typically what that means is through raising a family in spiritual culture. And that's traditional times. We're talking 500 years, we're talking about thousands of years ago. In modern times, we don't often have the facility or the upbringing to have that happen. So oftentimes in the West or throughout the world, one will be trained as a monk for several years, and then depending on that person's desire, they can either graduate after several years, sometimes decades, sometimes a decade, or many rare souls will take a whole lifelong vow as a monk, which we see here to our left, who's been a monk for how many decades now? 4. Incredible. And you've seen so many people come through the ashram, through the monastery, probably hundreds at this point, right? So and similarly, Balarami's been a monk for almost 15 years now. So these are very rare individuals. So I thought perhaps, coming to my own realizations, that I would take that path to graduate. So
how do you see your future from now on after you graduate to monk? Would you ever consider at some point that you would come back to like regular life, like you just said?
Whatever consider?
Like coming back to like those, like you just said, that coming back to like regular life, living a spiritual life, but still living in the world and having that.
That's basically what I'm doing now.
You're doing
yeah.
that?
But are you asking would I ever consider going back as a monk, or?
No, it's the other way around. So you already answered that.
Right. So that's generally the Grihastha ashram. Yes.
What was your inspiration or your motive behind choosing to having learned the monk life and then to go back into a civilian life?
Oh, we're getting really personal here. I love it. Well, I don't mind answering that question, because what you see is what you get. I'd rather just be raw and myself. What made me choose this path? I think at a certain point I realized my own inclinations, and that perhaps still walking the spiritual path, but with a significant other, or teaching but in a relevant way, was more suitable for according to my nature. So that's more or less it. Yeah.
What first called you at the very beginning?
What first called me into spiritual life?
What brought you into here?
What first brought me to the temple? I was seeking truth, essentially. As a teenager, grew up in Los Angeles and doing all of the teenage American boy things, and I think amidst it all was hopefully an inkling of sincerity to know truth, because there's a lot of mayhem out there. And I was reading spiritual books like by Eckhart Tolle, I believe, and Deepak Chopra, and I was doing yoga, and I was skateboarding with friends, and I was partying, and I was taking psychedelics, and I was living that life. But in the midst of it all, I was really seeking. And I think really through yoga was where I was thinking, what is the root of this all? And where I came across the philosophy in the Bhagavad Gita, and that's where I came across the devotees, which led me to the temple. And it all kind of just transpired from there. So, yeah, I like that. Yes?
After graduating, do you still get those desires or the longing to desire something?
After graduating, material desires? Or
any kind of desire?
Absolutely. I desire to grow spiritually. I desire to grow and become better so that I can serve.
How do you look at the monetary aspect of life after you just chose to live a civilian life? Because I believe, like growing up, I used to have belief like if I was too spiritual, that I would look money as a bad thing or something like that. But like, how you look at that? What was your perspective? When you were a monk, did it change, or how did you think of that?
Most definitely, that's an excellent question. How has my perspective changed after having come from 7 years of monasticism?
Did it change or not? I don't know, but I'm just curious.
Absolutely, it has changed. Immediately, I remember those first couple of weeks when I just graduated from the monastery, and having had conditioned myself to live a certain lifestyle and have a certain mindset for so long. I realized that the material world is really on a different rhythm. I had to make a lot of adjustments psychologically, because for so many years of my life, everything was just renunciation. I've only had essentially one attire, robes, and besides the typical clothes we use for outreach, but there was no fashion. It was just, we wore clothes because it clothed our body. We lived simply. We read the teachings and meditated, studied, rose every day very early for our meditations, and I think so much of coming back into the material world, I was immediately a minimalist. I was like, only clothes that I wore was a pair of Dickie pants and white t-shirts for months. I was like, what is my identity again? What style do I have? But I think the training in the ashram in the monastery is so much gave me inspiration to continue what I've learned in the practice in the material world, so that I can use all of every day. We will rise early in the morning, so still today I try to rise early in the morning, or I try to live simply, or I try not to have desires that are detrimental to my spiritual life. Too many external desires that pollute the mind, that pollute my focus on the true aim of life. And I think probably the biggest challenge coming out of the ashram and being exposed to so many things of this material world is making sure that it doesn't change you, in the sense that change your philosophy of life. Yeah. There's so many materialistic philosophies out there that you have to be somebody, that you have to so much external competition and so much the idea that you can't be satisfied unless you have something without, something external. And so I think for me it's like, try not to lose your essence, because Christ said, like, what's the profit of the man who gains the whole world but loses his soul? So we live in this material world and we're exposed to so many material facilities and enjoyments, and it's every chance that we can just become illusioned in Maya. And so that therefore our sadhana, our spiritual practice, is our saving grace. When we rise early or whenever and we take the time to chant our mantras or japa, or to sincerely pray, or to sincerely associate with seekers on the path, or to try to sincerely read and enter into that spiritual consciousness, is the way we transcend the overwhelm of the material world. Yeah, so it's a challenge for everyone, because it's all around us. Maya, or illusion, is ultimately the energy of the divine. And Krishna says, Daivesha Gunamayi, that this energy is his, but it's unsurmountable, it cannot be passed, but for those who have surrendered. Sharanagati. I think my favorite word in the Sanskrit dictionary is Sharanagati. It encapsulates the essence of our Bhakti Yoga tradition. And it's the most beautiful thing when a soul can just completely and give his love in complete surrender to the will of the divine. And through the Sharanagati, through the surrender, we can go beyond the material desires that may come. We can go beyond the material temptations that may come and stay spiritually grounded. Yeah. You guys have? Yeah. Sure.
The outside world, you have to rely on a lot of external factors that here, more the soul, the essence.
Right.
So I guess like always remember that there's people on the outside that are craving for that. And so like you want to love, because even though like I myself and God else you want to love, we're craving for that on the outside. So even though you're going to be on the outside, there's a lot of people who are trying to find their identity outside them. There's also people who are just trying to find themselves, just like you find yourself in them. So just carry that with you when you get out there, because we're right here.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
You were here wearing the monk outfit. With the mic, I guess. Regarding your graduation, you were here as a monk wearing the monk outfit, but when you go outside, you're going to be in regular attire, interacting with regular people.
Sure.
For regular people, is there a skill set from your experience being here that we can discern from someone simply wearing an outfit of a monk or any other uniform and reacting with them in that way, or a way to figure out who this person is by discerning their spirit and therefore giving them the true respect or the true interaction that we should give from your graduation standpoint, since you've seen both worlds? The way people reacted to you, can you talk about that and see how it come out?
Skill set?
Skill set or just your nature?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your question. By skill set, do you also mean
Like the nature
qualities?
of a monk?
Qualities?
Yeah,
Quality? Okay.
how people react based on you.
Right. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go ask some people. Perhaps what's most immediately perceivable is potentially my, I don't know. Perhaps the years of meditation have helped me become more spiritually grounded. So perhaps I can try to be more grounded around people. And maybe they sense that. I don't know. But
Would you say people react differently when they're in your house here or when you're outside? Or is it the same vibe being out that same
I don't think. Yeah, something. Okay.
Well, thank you. I always dress like this wherever I go, and I'm kind of a detail-oriented person, and I notice things and people's reactions. So a lot of the times, most people, they don't even, I guess maybe they don't even. It seems that they hardly even recognize that I'm dressed like this, more or less. And then there's a few who do, and usually those people are like spiritual people, kind of receptive people. I'm just speaking from Southern California perspective. Of course, we could talk about other places in the world, but we'll just talk about here. And some people who do seem to recognize that I'm dressed like this, usually they're spiritually inclined people. They may ask questions or something like that. But it's interesting, I've had a number of occasions where I had to go to some store to pick something up, and I'm dressed like this, and they come up to me and they say, "But you work here, right?" And I go, "No, I don't." So, "Oh, okay, sorry." And they keep on going. I literally had it happen a number of times at different stores, and I'm surprised. It's like, do I look like I work here? Like at Michael's or something. I'm picking something at Michael's. "Oh, you work here, right?" "No, I don't." So that's another interesting thing. So it kind of, anyways.
Thank you. Yeah, perhaps I think that whether we're wearing robes or just casual clothes, that consciousness is something that people perceive on an energetic level, on a spiritual level. So depending on the purity, they can tell. So I think perhaps that. Yeah. Sure.
If you're
Hello.
if your current realized self could travel back in time to the version of you before entering, the journey of becoming a monk, what would you tell yourself?
Wow. Prior to when I didn't join the ashram, what would I tell myself? I will tell myself, face your fears and have faith in God, and everything will be alright. Yeah.
Since living in a space where you're constantly surrounded by other people to living a little bit more isolated, have you felt loneliness, and if so, how have you dealt with it?
In the ashram, in the communal quarters, dealing with loneliness.
Well, he still lives with people.
Right, I still live with people. In the ashram, it's hard to feel lonely because you're in a room with several people, and there's always people walking in and outside the ashram. And there's about 15 monks, 15 monks in a quarter of 5-6 rooms, and we all share one communal restroom. So it's hard to be lonely. Like that, I think it's the challenge that you don't get enough privacy. But of course, everyone's in a different place. There has been times where people who join the monastery who also feel that even in the midst of company and programs and people, and congregation and community, that they still feel that sense of loneliness. I don't think I've really encountered it on that level, but it's always a lot of people all the time.
I think her question's more that when you leave the ashram, because in the
Oh.
ashram there's so many people.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
When you leave, do you feel like it's more lonely?
Now.
Oh,
When you're not living with so many people.
okay. Well, I still live with a couple people, so.
I think I will have a follow-up question. Like living with the people still can make one feel alone. Like I can, although I've never lived as a monk, but even living among the people can make somebody feel loneliness, and there are lots of dialogue and discussion going on. Like you feel alone even living among the crowd. So living around the people doesn't necessarily mean that you might not feel loneliness. So especially if you are around the people who do not have kind of thinking you have cultivated your thinking or your discipline. So in those situations, it's like if I were you, I would definitely feel a lot of loneliness, and because that's not kind of tribe I have been grown up with or trained to grow or live around. So it was just my follow question that have you ever felt that way? Like if you're living with like those civilian like after transitioning from this monk life to that life.
Do I feel loneliness in my current condition or current status? Not in a detrimental way. Not in an unhealthy way. I feel like I'm surrounded by good company, and the time and privacy that I do have, I don't mind, because there's some part of me that is a bit introverted, so having some time for myself is nice. Chris? Oh, yes.
I don't really, you mentioned Maya and the illusion. I don't really understand exactly what that means. Can you share like what that means, or is that like present in the ashram still, or is it just like in the material world? The material world is still out there, even though there's like spiritual monks. But how does that apply, or is like the opposite of the illusion like the truth, or can you expand or explain that to someone who doesn't know?
Sure. That's a really good question. Thank you. You just been coming here, or how?
This is my third time.
Your third time? Yeah. And you've heard some of these Sanskrit phrases or words come about.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it, and I actually pulled up the Instagram from the chalkboard, and the first word I clicked on was Maya.
Okay.
And I read that one, and then you mentioned it, so I don't really understand.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I appreciate your sincerity. Maya is a Sanskrit word that literally translates into that which is with that which isn't, and essentially illusion. And so anything that's outside of the spiritual reality is considered Maya. And so from a Vedic perspective, from a scriptural perspective, our yoga philosophy, our texts, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita explains that this very reality, this material reality, is Maya, it's illusion, and that it's the whole idea behind Maya which is a very person. Maya is a demigoddess that is ultimately a devotee of Krishna, and her ability is to actually disenchant the living souls of this world. And it's really the goal of life to go beyond Maya, the illusion, and to restore our original consciousness and to return back to the spiritual reality. And so this is not just a concept from our tradition, but Buddhist also as well. Many different yoga traditions. It's an essential understanding that this world is external, it's material. But the good thing is that we're all faced with this contradiction, that we're essentially spiritual, but we live in a material world. And so if we engage in spiritual activities, if we engage the work that we engage in this world, it becomes karma yoga. It becomes a yoga that elevates us, karma yoga and Krishna consciousness. So, and that's really the way of becoming disentangled from this Maya. Is that okay? So.
Hello. I have one question.
Sure.
After becoming monk, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. After becoming monk for future, what do you want to achieve next? What is your purpose next?
I think living in the ashram for so long has literally ingrained into my spirit this activist spirit, and I consider myself a spiritual activist. So in my heart, I'm always thinking of ways of how to share perhaps the most precious thing that I've ever come across, and that's this process of Krishna consciousness with others. And so I guess my purpose has been, as of recently, and has been for the last 7 years, has been how to spread Bhakti Yoga or Krishna consciousness in a relevant way.
But does it trigger the worry in you if you think about the future purpose?
What was that?
Do you have any sort of worry get triggers in you when you think about the future purpose? Although it's not, it should be like totally against what you've been trained for. But I just feel like a regular civilian, I'd be really, worried, like because now I'm changing, like 4 different lifestyles, and then I'm thinking about a future purpose, like 4 different lifestyles.
Mm-hmm.
So do you ever felt worried or anything like that?
There's worries in the ashram, and there's worries in the external world. It's the nature of this world. But yeah, for me, it's just remaining focused on the mission, focused on my purpose.
So do you still have the same purpose right now?
Yeah. I feel like I'm still doing the same work. I'm still connected to the same mission. Just I may look a little differently, but essentially the same. I don't feel that much different either. I honestly don't feel an inch different. I may look different. I may perhaps operate differently, but I feel like me, the consciousness, is just still the same. You know. Is there any other comments or questions?
Just adding to what people were saying earlier, it's more of a comment than a question. So, if you have faith in the Supreme God, whatever you want to call him, then I don't think that you can be alone, actually. Because there's a lot of people who are with others in big groups, like he was living in the ashram, but he was saying that they can feel alone, right? And it could be the other way around. But if you have faith in God and you practice things spiritual, then you won't feel alone. And that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. That was actually really nice. I feel like I caught up with a lot of people today, right now. Like I think everybody just knows where I'm at. Now I just gotta catch up with all of you. Yeah, I feel like Krishna provides. Krishna takes care. As long as we're sincerely on the path of self-realization. And then, by His grace, things will work out. Okay.
So you're going to Disneyland?
You gotta take this.
No, he's not.
Hey, don't tell me. See, this is what I'm talking about Maya right here. See this? I'll show you. Okay, so is everything good to go? Or? Yeah, okay, so I guess we can end it there. Thank you all. You had one more question?
Oh,
Okay,
yeah, just
sure.
one more question. In the beginning, you mentioned like graduating of how like previously like kids are grown up and taught, and then at 25 they can choose to like graduate or start a family.
Mm-hmm.
So like monks can't start a family, or
Pretty much not. Pretty much you have to graduate into the
okay.
next ashram to do so.
I see.
But it's the option is there for those who are willing, who are interested in taking that path.
And Krishna was born from a family, right? And that's how more monks are born, right? So,
Krishna can do many things. He was a monk. He comes in many forms, and then in one avatar he was a monk, Sri Chaitanya.
But he's not born, he's eternal.
But he's
the only being that is eternal.
But he's absolute.
He's not born. So, yeah, in the sense that we are born. He's not born from a family in the way as we are born.
Oh, I thought that he had a brother and a mom. So I thought.
Yeah, but not like your brother or your mother.
Spiritual, completely spiritual, completely different from
Right.
Like a baby.
Like his father thought of him, and he was ready to appear from his mother. And it's not like the same way as we appear in this world.
Okay. Kind of like Jesus, the same way.
You can compare it, yeah, that would help you probably to understand since it's so well known.
Thank you.
Sure.
Was it Krishna married?
Yes, he was Rukmini. So we'll say, yeah, we can also discuss more over dinner. So just a couple of announcements. As always, do you have anything that we want to share? Okay. Well, if you'd like to help serve out, we serve right out here. It's a completely free program. If you'd like to make any contribution, it's helpful. Donation box right there. Thank you all for coming. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.